this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Get It Right Texoma with the trio. I'm Mike Hendren. This is Terry McAdams. Trey Serralo on the other end over there. Thank you for joining us. Many of you watching on YouTube, thank you for joining our podcast that way. You can also get us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and
tell your friends and neighbors too, by the way, because that's the word of mouth is the best way, and it's really starting to grow. It's kind of catching fire here. Like
it is. Yeah, we've had some really good numbers, and things are looking great. So we appreciate your viewership. We appreciate you sharing and liking our Facebook page and sharing the podcast, sharing the links.
And by the way, if you're interested in advertising for this and getting your word out, then contact Mike Hendren. He's the advertising guru here. And we focus so many things on local, and I don't know that anybody's doing a local podcast in the Texoma area like we are.
No.
I know nobody's doing it as entertaining as we are.
No.
But as far as doing what we do to try to entertain and inform. So tell your friends and family we want to be your go-to place for what's going on in Texoma.
The brain power at this table can barely fit in the room. That's all I'm saying. The energy in this room, you could cut it with a knife.
The problem is when I stepped in there, I lowered the IQ points down. That's all.
Yeah. Well,
oh God.
Well, anyway, and also, if I know a person who can help you. He's a broadcast professional. If you want to start your own podcast,
where?
Yeah, right.
Oh, me?
Yes. You.
Well, hang on just a second. Why would we want to have people start a podcast and compete with us?
No, but
that doesn't make sense.
No.
Wouldn't be competing against us. They may want to promote their business and talk about their business.
Yeah, no, but then that's time away from us.
You're just being selfish.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, gotcha. I gotcha. Well, but if you seriously, a lot of people have a lot of their own expertise and in their business, and they want to talk about it. And maybe that'd be something we'd talk about at one point. But having a podcast is not necessarily about the money. Clearly, we've spent more time doing this because we want to have fun. But also, part of it is, we get to talk about our business a little bit.
Exactly.
And but in the long run, it's mainly about having some fun and learning and helping each other out and informing. And we have something to share. And that's what we want to be able to do.
That says pretty soon, though, I am going to have a podcast on road tripping. And the first one is going to be the Pacific Coast Highway.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm going to go through that. And that was actually Terry's idea. Okay. I said I was going to write up a blog about it. He goes, why don't you do a podcast about it? Yeah. So there'll be a blog about it and on how to run the Pacific Coast Highway in 8 days.
Okay.
Now, you could do it. You could take more time.
Right.
But, the average person does not have, a ton of time to take off at one time. So, and there's a cost to it. By the way, it's not cheap to drive and live or stay in hotels in the Pacific Northwest or all the way through California. It's expensive.
No.
So you kind of want to zip through there as long as you want to see everything. But I'm going to do a podcast on how to do it in 8 days.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but if you want to learn one, come see this guy.
And contrary to popular belief, he did not have to break every traffic law on the books in California.
No,
only
not
about
everyone.
half of them.
That's right. Yeah.
When did you stay at a Motel 6?
I did not. Tom Bodette. By the way, one thing I will tell you real quick, just share with you, when you are in this, I found this on the Northeast and the Northwest. When you just look and say, okay, I'm going to stay at a hotel, you better check because there's a lot of them they called hotels and they are motels.
Yeah.
And really? I found that on the East Coast years ago doing the fall season in the East Coast, driving through New England and all. There's a lot of times they say motel or hotel, but it's a motel. A hotel has doors on the inside and a motel has doors to the exterior.
Right.
So that's the difference.
Motor
hotel.
A motor hotel.
Well, I guess quick access for the front door. Yeah.
You used to have these old places here in Wichita Falls, a couple of them that up until a few years ago still had signs outside that said refrigerated air.
That's right. Color TV.
And it's like, wow.
Yeah, that is not new.
Did
you even buy a black and white TV anymore?
No.
I don't think so.
You haven't been able to buy a black and white TV in, 30 years probably?
But
you can't buy a tube TV.
But I think it would almost be a collector's item now.
Yeah.
It's got to be an antique now at this point.
Yeah.
You know,
be careful of the inside because it'll tens of thousands of volts in there. Be careful.
It'll zap you.
Yeah, a little shocking.
Yeah.
Anyway, this podcast being brought to you by MacTech Solutions, 4020 Ray Road here in Wichita Falls, MacTech-Solutions.com. We're recording this podcast in the MacTech Solutions podcast studio. In fact, Eddie Hills Fun Cycles of 401 North Scott, downtown Wichita Falls since 1966. EddieHillsFunCycles.com and Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, LPSweet.com. The website, you can also find us on Facebook, Lolly, Lollie, and Pops, Pops, on Facebook. Now,
and that is named because it's your wife, you and your wife Miranda's business, and you are Lolly and Pop to your grandchildren.
I'm Lolly and she's Pops. No, she's not. She's Lolly and I'm Pops.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what the grandkids call us, and so that's what stuck.
Sounds good.
You know.
There you go. And
how great marketing it is, but it's working now. You know,
it won't be there now probably, but I may still have it on the screen when I do the editing. Is the logo will be right here?
Somewhere right in the logo. So we're sort of in the center there.
Yeah,
there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Back in the 50s when they would do those commercials, and that you actually had to have like a cardboard effigy of the logo, hang out. I shared this really cool old commercial the other day on Facebook. It's an old Kellogg's commercial from the early 50s. And it's this family seated at a table, and they're advertising the little mini boxes of cereal. You get the multi-pack, and it had a variety of cereals in it. And it was a Kellogg's ad. And this puppet drops down out of the ceiling, and it's a puppet version of Jimmy Durante.
Oh, wow.
Remember Jimmy Durante?
Yeah.
And he comes out, and the puppet's dancing on the table, and he's singing the Kellogg's jingle, And it's you look at it now, it seems almost silly, but it's like that was really creative advertising.
Oh yeah, that was cutting edge stuff.
Not to mention the fact that was a really expensive commercial to make. In the
guys, do you think about it? Even when we were kids, when we were growing up, not even kids, but they're when you talked about people like water cooler commercials.
Yeah.
Mikey. Hey, Mikey. It's Life cereal, remember?
Yeah. Yes.
You knew all the characters, you knew all the lines. We would go to school and he likes it. Hey, Mikey. Yep. He never eats anything. I mean, whatever was popular at the time, we would go through and we would recite the commercials.
Yes.
Bud, Wise, remember all those?
Yes.
Well, and we would read the back of the cereal box while we were eating. Right?
Yes.
There was stuff to read. There was a game. Oh, you remember when they put the records on it?
Yes, because you didn't have this going on. You actually had to entertain yourself there.
But the commercials were the zeitgeist of America, and we all knew them. Spuds McKenzie.
Yes.
We all knew them. We knew the words to them. You'd see them over and over. Remember the NFL commercials, the Less Filling Tastes Great commercials?
Yes.
And by the way, the biggest stars in the world at the time were in some of these commercials.
Yes.
These were not unknown actors and actresses. These were huge stars.
These were A-listers. A-listers.
Yeah, but we're much more fragmented. The media is much more fragmented.
Oh, yeah.
Than
totally.
ever. I mean, what a market share that used to, among all the networks, they'd have a show on and it would grab, 30, 40, 50% or even higher of the viewing audience. Yeah. Now that's unheard of.
Oh, yeah, you have 30 million people that would watch Seinfeld or Cheers or whatever.
But now you've got 200 choices of channels to watch.
Yeah.
Jeez. And YouTube. And the phone is a competitor now. Just the fact that the phone is taking away from viewing time because you're watching it on the phone, you're watching movies, you're watching all kinds of stuff.
Everything that we watch on television now, in terms of TV, everything we watch is streamed.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't have cable, we don't have satellite, we do streaming only. We don't even have an antenna connected to our televisions. None of our TVs in the house have an antenna. We stream everything we watch.
Yeah.
Everything. All right, a couple of big events here. Texas Ranch Roundup is coming up July the 19th and 20th. Casey Donahue has been announced as the headliner for the
Saturday night
entertainment portion on Saturday night.
Yeah.
The tickets are on sale right now. They will go fast.
Yes.
They will go quickly.
Especially with Casey Donahue. He's a big name.
And I know July 19th and 20th sounds like it's a long way away. Y'all, we're talking about something now that's about 60 days out.
Right. Yeah, the reason we're talking about it now is because the tickets are being on sale.
That's right.
Not trying to remind you the Texas Ranch Roundup is coming up. We'll let you know as it gets closer. But like Mike said, if you don't get your tickets now, you may not get them.
Yeah, you got to get those pretty quick. And then May 10th and 24th and June 14th and 28th, 11 to 1. Take It Outside Community Picnic Series at Park Central. Live music. Local restaurants will be on hand selling food.
Yeah, Park Central is I don't remember what the name of it was before, but it's the park that's next to the Wichita Tower. Yeah. So it's west of the Wichita Tower and south of Big Blue.
Some of you have backyards that are bigger than this park.
Yeah, but it has a big Wichita Falls sign there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people take it. It's gotten to be a very popular place where people take pictures and that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right there on Scott, right?
Yeah, right on Scott
there.
Street.
Between 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
8th and 9th.
It's right across, is it catty corner from Big Blue?
It's right across the street from Big, that's what I just said. It's south of Big Blue and west of Wichita Tower.
Okay, all right. So,
Okay.
Very easy to find. Very easy to find.
Which, by the way, right now, just a public service announcement, city services are now in the Wichita Tower and Big Blue. So if you are looking for City Hall is being remodeled. So while that's being remodeled, that's where the city services are.
Yeah.
And I do know the water department is in the Wichita Tower.
Yes.
And I did read somewhere it was flooded, which I thought was very ironic that the water department got flooded. Wasn't funny, but it's ironic.
It's not funny, but it's funny.
But they are back open, so if you need to pay your water bill or have water business, it's in the bottom floor of the Wichita Tower. By the way, it's another public service announcement because I went through this one. If you need a permit for watering, so if you're putting sod down and landscaping, you have to go get a permit in the city of Wichita Falls. But you don't go where it says permits. I don't know what it says now, but maybe it's been changed. But a couple of weeks ago when you walked into Wichita Tower, there was a sign that said permits on the 6th floor. That's building permits only. And I don't know if they've corrected that or not, maybe or maybe not. But just so you know, if you on 6th floor is building permits, but you have to go to the Public Works Department, which is on the 9th floor, to get your watering permit. So if you need to water and do your landscaping, it's a 30-day permit. It's like $50. Oh, by the way, no credit cards, cash or check. So
really,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. Which I don't know. Well, I don't know why. It is what it is. I'm not complaining.
Not
about
many people even take checks anymore. You know that.
Well, the city does.
Yeah,
but I'm sure part of it has to do with convenience fees.
Well, yeah.
Because
I know it does.
And because I think you could pay your water bill online with a credit card, but there's a convenience fee. Right. Yeah. But they don't have a way to process credit cards up there in that office.
Yeah. They could. Right now, that's easy. So easy to do now.
Right now, but right now things are a little disarray. Just give the city a little credit. Everybody that's working for the city is trying to work hard in a little tougher circumstances. So give them a little bit of slack.
You really don't have a choice when you've got a project of this size, this magnitude. You're trying to remodel a building that's 100 years old, that has been in need of repair for a long time. There were a lot of repairs internally that could not be done until the foundation issues were corrected.
Because it was sliding down the hill.
Literally, the wings were sliding away from the main building. And so, and that has to do with where it was built, the way it was built, poor engineering in the first place.
Well, yeah, but you think about it, poor engineering, but it was when it was built in 1910. I don't know what engineering. I understand what you're saying, but back then they probably didn't expect for this building supposed to last 100 years.
No, they probably figured it had 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, we'll throw it up. It'll be fine, and they'll build a new one.
They'll tear it down, build a new one, or build a new one somewhere else. And that was the expectation then. But I think it took 3 years to get the foundation issues corrected.
Right.
That was a serious endeavor and a very expensive endeavor, and obviously a lot of time. So, in order to now fix all of the things internally that need to be fixed and updated and upgraded and repaired and whatnot, you got to get everybody out of there. It's just, it's too hard, it's too inconvenient, and in some cases even too dangerous to do some of this work when you've got hundreds of people in the building all day.
Absolutely,
long.
yeah.
It just doesn't.
Got to get them out.
It's not practical.
So the good news is they didn't have to go very far. They were able to get some office space downtown. By the way, just one more thing on the. I know keep going here. One more thing, but one more thing on the local government. Yeah. The county annex. That remodel project on the exterior is about done. It is awesome looking. It's on the corner of Scott and 6th Street.
Yes.
And it's the tag office or where you go pay your taxes and that sort of thing. They're redoing the inside as well. But the exterior, Looks really sharp. They've done a fantastic job on that.
Have you seen that really cool retro neon sign they got there? It says Annex on it.
Yeah, it's with the county logo on it.
It's a very 40s, 50s-esque looking sign.
Well, I remember Mark Beecham told us when he first talked about this, we had him on the radio program.
Yes.
And Mark Beecham, county commissioner, and he was telling us a little bit that it would have a lot of the retro feel, like the older feel, and that he was right. Well, it really looks good.
That building was a car dealership.
Been a lot of things.
Long time ago. In fact, that may be how it started its life, was as a car dealership.
I'd have, yeah.
And if I understand the story correctly, and if I've got the story right, so there used to be obviously a lot of windows. You had a display, a showroom floor, so you had a lot of windows, and there was a sign very similar to that hung on the exterior of the building that referenced the car dealership that was there. So I think this is kind of paying a little homage to that.
An homage.
Yes. So it's a long time coming. It needed to be done years ago. Finally, we're bringing that building out of the 1960s. Thank you. At last.
No, it's a great job. They're doing a great job. And by the way, as much as I dislike and is distasteful all this COVID money that's flown around and everything, at least the Wichita County taxpayer did not bear this burden 100% on their own.
Right.
Jim from Poughkeepsie, New York, helped us pay for it. So
yes.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim from Poughkeepsie. Yes. Enjoy whatever the hell it is you eat in Poughkeepsie. I'm sure it's not burritos, because we love burritos here, breakfast burritos especially. See, now I'm hungry.
Well, yeah.
Why did I even bring that up?
Yeah,
anyway.
no, thanks.
My favorite is just eggs, sausage, and cheese and onion. There you go.
Yes.
Make it simple.
Yeah, my favorite is chorizo, eggs, bacon, and onion.
Chorizo.
I love chorizo.
Hey, y'all talked about food, so hey.
Yeah, there we go.
Chorizo's hard to beat, I got to tell you.
Yeah. And you don't want to know what's in it? Who cares? It's good.
Just go with it.
Yeah, that's
Just go with it. Just enjoy the flavor. Let's talk a little bit about Trump and DeSantis. They met privately for several hours in Miami last week.
Right.
Now, if you guys will remember, way back in the beginning of all of this, shortly after the creation of the earth. No, I'm kidding, not that far back. A couple of years ago, I was talking about the very real possibility of a Trump-DeSantis ticket.
Right.
And everybody dismissed it. Everybody said can't happen, won't happen. It, kind of how they talked about each other, and especially how Trump was talking about DeSantis and all this. And I told you then, and I'm telling you all now, don't get hung up on how these politicians treat one another in front of the cameras. Okay? A lot of that's just theater.
Absolutely.
It's just theater, period. It's what they do.
Even with Trump,
and not only that,
realizes
even
things.
when they're in different parties, there's a lot of these people.
Oh yeah,
a lot of these senators and congressmen and stuff like that they go to the same country clubs together. They golf together. They do so. They might hellfire and brimstone each other behind that microphone. But when they get away from there, a lot of them are the same. I heard
a commentator, and I cannot remember. This was years and years ago. This goes back to. I think the Bush 41 re-election campaign in '92, and the commentator it was a Congress. I know what it was. It was during I think it was Bush 41's last State of the Union address.
Okay,
and so you've got this shot of Congress, and he said, those folks that you're looking at there, regardless of what party affiliation they have more in common with one another than they will ever have in common with you and I.
Yeah.
And I thought, now, no truer statement has ever been said. At the end of the day, they are going to have much more in common with each other than they will have in common with us. Trump can bluster and say whatever, but Trump's got a lot of smart people around him, advising him. Don't think Trump's not listening to others. He is. Of course he is. Trump, part of the way, and you guys will agree with this. You're business owners, so you'll agree with this. When you're in business for yourself, one of the things that you do and that you learn to do is surround yourself with people smarter than you.
Oh, your employees are your most valuable commodity.
You connect yourself to people that are going to help you, that are going to help further your business, and who are in many times more expert on certain facets of your industry than you are.
Well, every mechanic I have is a better mechanic than me. You know,
Exactly.
My F&I guy is a better finance guy than me.
Right.
You can't be the best at everything.
No.
And you want to find people that are better than you at certain things and try to get everybody together as a team to go that direction.
Right. And so don't think Trump's not doing that. He is doing that. And I think this is telling the fact that they met privately. To me, that sends a signal that perhaps the door is open, if even ever so slightly, to the possibility of a Trump-DeSantis ticket.
I think it's very possible. I'm not going to say it's highly likely, but I think it's very possible. Because a perfect example. Well, there's two perfect examples.
Yeah.
One is LBJ and Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they honestly didn't like each other.
They hated
by the way,
each other.
Yeah, they didn't like each other. And Bobby Kennedy really hated LBJ for what he said about John Kennedy. But John Kennedy was smart enough to know LBJ can help me get elected. Yeah. The other one that a lot of people don't realize or know about was Bush 41 and Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
Yeah. Bush 41 called Ronald Reagan's voodoo economics.
Yes.
Trickle down economics or supply side economics, called it voodoo economics. And so these people, like I said, they'll say a lot of things in the camera.
Yeah.
And in the end, sometimes it doesn't matter, even if they don't like each other.
That's right.
What they think is best for the country or what they think is best for themselves, they'll do. Yep. Period.
They will. And I do think it's a little bit telling here that they've met. I think it signals that, like I said, I think maybe the door is open, if ever so slightly. And they can say all day long, "Oh, we weren't talking about that. We were not, we were not exploring that possibility or whatever." No, I promise you, they are. We are now, what are we, 5-6 months out from the election? You've got to. We're at a point now where Trump's got to start making a decision.
Oh yeah, he's a do it or get off the pot type place real quickly here on the vice president.
Well, I promise you guys, there's already a short list. There's already a short working list of VP possibilities. There has been for a while now. And now it's down to, okay, we've got to narrow the list even further. And within the next, here's what I think. You've got the Democratic National Convention coming up in August. He's got to make some decision before then.
Right.
You don't want to get into that phase of this race and still not have your VP pick.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a hard, fast deadline on him or not. I don't know of anything constitutionally that requires it, but at a minimum, there's a deadline in his mind, and there's a deadline in the party's program.
Sure,
of
exactly.
Things, that we have to have a decision made by X date, and we will get there. And I think we'll get there my prediction is by mid-June we know who the VP pick is going to be.
Who do you think the top 5 are right now?
Well, I think DeSantis is on the list. I think Noam is still on the list. There's a couple of Republican senators that could be on the list.
I think Tim Scott's on the list.
Tim Scott's one of them.
I think Vivek Ramaswamy's on the list.
Vivek is probably on the list. The one thing that concerns me about him is, as strong a personality as DeSantis is, I think Ramaswamy is stronger.
Yep.
And I think those two forces, he and Trump together, they might be too damn strong for one another.
I think that, and then I got another one that I think's on the list.
Who's that?
Greg Abbott.
It's okay.
Well, that was floated here.
And
I'm the one who floated it.
A number of people.
I heard it. Now, I've heard this. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I have any insight that that's happening, but I am telling you, I do know some people in Austin.
Yes.
They're saying that is a pretty strong possibility. People that know, at least they don't know personally themselves, but they know what the rumors are in Austin. That's a strong one there.
I have talked to people locally that I consider to be influential people, influential in business, and even influential on the political side too.
Well, thank you, Mike. No, I was kidding.
You're welcome.
So he means real influential.
You want all Elvis on there. Thank you very much. No, people that I would consider very influential in business and somewhat influential in politics who have said the same thing.
Yeah.
They think that there's a good possibility that our governor is on that short list too. But I think we're going to have a decision. Tim Scott, my only reservation about Tim Scott is, does Tim Scott at this point have the name recognition necessary to pull his weight on the ticket and to bring people onto the ticket?
I don't know. I think he's gotten that way. I really think he's gotten there.
You think he has?
Yeah, I do. I think he has.
I think what hampered him, in the, other than the fact he was up against Donald Trump, but one of the things that hampered him in the Republican nomination process is the fact that, first of all, he's got like the most generic name you could possibly have.
That's true.
And second of all, too few people knew who he was.
Well, but
he did not have a national presence.
Well, neither did Kamala Harris.
Well, no, she didn't, but she had a PR machine behind her that was pushing hard. Well, he did not.
He did not, but I think he would in the Republican Party.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so I do think,
I think he would be a very viable candidate. By the way, I think he would. Of all those people that we talked about, to me, I think as far as Tim Scott's probably he's for sure the most likable out of that group.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's the smartest, and I don't know if he's the sharpest politician, but I think he's one of the most well-rounded out of the group. When you talk about sharp, smart, politician, likability, and kind of the package, I think he's the best package out of that group.
I think the smartest one out of the group is Ramaswamy.
Of course, yeah.
I think the most marketable out of the group is DeSantis. For reasons of y'all, I'll get hate mail over this. The dude looks good on camera.
Well, not just that, but the problem is though, DeSantis doesn't have the charisma though.
No,
he tries. His charisma is forced. He does not have the natural charisma. He's not a naturally funny person.
It's Dan Quayle.
He's Dan Quayle plus.
Yeah,
because he's better than Dan Quayle. But I agree with you. Yeah, he does not have the natural charisma. Trump has a natural charisma. People that don't like him say if you're around, the guy could have been a comedian.
Yeah, he's
very quick-witted and sharp and stuff like that. I don't know that Tim Scott's there either. Ramaswamy is actually. Yeah. Ramaswamy's is pretty sharp that way. Yeah. But Tim Scott is very likable, and I think he comes across as very likable on camera, whereas DeSantis comes across as, I'm trying to force this. This is he's just too robotic in a way.
Yeah. Well, and okay.
I like his policies though.
Our senator here from Texas, Ted Cruz. When Ted Cruz was first running for office, Ted Cruz came across as very clinical and almost somewhat robotic. But Ted Cruz he is an attorney. Mm-hmm. He was the Solicitor General in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. He was simply acting and speaking in a way that was consistent with his training, and his work as an attorney, and in that acting as a Solicitor General. That's why he was that way. Now I think he's loosened up a lot. He grew a beard, for crying out loud.
I was going to say though, honestly, I think that helped him. Believe it or not, I believe from an aesthetic standpoint, because Ted Cruz has a very angular, pointed face.
Yes,
and I think growing that beard softened his face a little bit.
Yes.
And I believe also Ted Cruz actually is a pretty witty person, and then and I think he's a pretty witty person, and I think that he's allowed some of that witticism to come out as well.
Okay, Terry, if you could pick someone to be on this ticket, who would it be?
Is
there anybody we've talked or anybody we haven't talked about? You can't say yourself.
No. Oh, darn it.
Okay, Terry, I'll accept the nomination.
I think, honestly, I'm out there still kind of trying to, decide. But if I had to pick today, I'd probably want DeSantis. Now Ramaswamy, I like what he says, but there's something, I just don't see any proven record, really, right? I mean, he wasn't a politician.
Well, neither was Donald Trump.
No. I get that. But is he too much like Donald Trump?
I agree with you there. I think they're too much alike on that in the deal.
And
I think Ramaswamy is the smartest one.
But he's not going to. Who's he going to bring? He's going to bring the same group.
Yeah, right? I agree. I don't know that it's about bringing people, but I agree with you.
No, but I mean,
I think you do. And okay, we'll go back here for a moment to the Kennedy Johnson thing that Trey brought up.
That made a difference. Yeah.
Okay, part of the reason that John Kennedy brought Lyndon Johnson onto the ticket is he needed to win the Southern Protestant vote.
Yeah.
And there was a fear that because he was a Northerner and he was Catholic,
yes,
he wasn't going to get elected because he was because Southerners, and particularly Southern Protestants, Southern Baptists,
especially Southern Baptists,
were not going to support a Catholic for the White House. And so bringing Johnson onto the ticket was seen as a way. It was a marketing ploy. It was purely about marketing. This is a way to sell John Kennedy to those folks.
Right. But I think those days are over. I really don't believe with the way our internet is and with the connectability that we all have nowadays, I don't think that there was an argument that Ronald Reagan brought George Bush in to get the Texas, to shore up the Texas vote. But I don't know. I think that has gotten less and less. I don't think that you're going to bring somebody in to get a certain vote.
It's definitely less impactful today.
I think it's way
than
less
it would have been
in
pre-internet days.
Can it kill a presidential candidate to bring the wrong person on?
I don't think so.
So you don't think it go either way?
No, I don't. It could possibly help. It could possibly hurt a little bit. It could possibly help, but I don't think it could kill or make or break a candidate. I don't think it's going to make a candidate or break a candidate. I think this would have been the case with Reagan in 1980. If he had someone other than George H.W. Bush, I don't think it would have mattered. We were at a point in society. We had 4 years of Jimmy Carter. Let's be fair. We'd had an ass full of Jimmy Carter.
We had an absolute dumpster fire for 4 years with Jimmy Carter. America was sick of it, and they wanted an alternative. We have, in some ways, the same situation with Joe Biden.
I agree with that.
For different reasons, perhaps, in some ways. Now, economically, I don't think we're as bad off economically as we were in the Carter years. Because we don't have 18% mortgage rates we're going into. But
it's much worse than it was, though. That's the thing.
It's
all relative.
It's all relevant. It's your perspective. But I think you have a very similar situation here with Joe Biden. We've had 4 years of a dumpster fire, and America's sick of it. Trump is such a strong, overwhelming personality in so many ways. He's such a dominant figure right now that I think who he picks may not be of such significance as it could have been if it were, say, George W. Bush running for office.
That's possible. I can see that. But I agree. He's going to dominate the ticket. But what I'm looking at is if Donald Trump wins a nomination, and I look at it and he goes down, who do I want to take over that responsibility in the White House? And that answer is probably Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
From a once again a pure policy standpoint,
experience.
I like Tim Scott, and I think Tim Scott could be. The thing is, I think what could be very good is I think because Tim Scott is likable. If he got in there under a Trump, and they could groom Tim Scott to learn the ways of the politics side of it, and still maintain his likability standard, I think he could be a really good person.
Also, don't we have to take into consideration that when if Trump wins, he's in there one time. You need to have your grooming. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Grooming that vice president to take in and be able to do another 8 years.
Look, here's the way I'm looking at this whole thing, and I think the way that Trump needs to sell this to the moderates, the people in the middle of the road, the people, you're not going to sell. The diehard Republicans are already sold, and the diehard Democrats are already sold.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this could be one in the middle, and I think the way he needs to sell it is, look, Joe Biden's had his chance.
Yeah.
He shit the bed. right? I'm only going to be in for 4 years.
Yeah.
So forget about forget about the hate that they're saying and and all the craziness that these people are trying to throw at me, that I'm going to be a dictator and I'm Hitler and this. I was already the president and none of that happened. I was already the president and the economy was good and we didn't go to war and by the way, I can't run again.
Right.
So give me 4 more years to try to get this shit straightened out.
Yes.
And then
I can hand the baton.
Then get Joe Biden flushed out, get Trump flushed out. So I'm going to flush in a toilet and get those old 2 turds out of here, right? Flush it and then start new and see where we can go.
And I think who Trump picks as a running mate, the most important factor here is going to be, once Trump is done and he's done his 4 years, is that candidate, that VP candidate, somebody who is electable as president.
Yep, exactly.
Is it somebody we can get elected?
And the Republicans are being short-sighted by not working with Trump, who clearly is I mean, it's going to be Trump on the ticket.
There's no question.
So why not invest in the 4 years after that?
Yeah.
And be thoughtful ahead of time. But no, Republicans, the old style Republicans are rhinos or not.
I will say though that the one thing that I want to do is I want to be sure that Trump checks some boxes. Okay. Number 1, can't be a giggle box. Can we say? Number 2, cannot be selected because of DEI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's Kristi Noem, it's because Kristi Noem's the best person.
Right.
Not because she has female parts. If it's Tim Scott, it's because Tim Scott's the best person, not because he's black. If it's Vivek Ramaswamy, it's because he's the best person, not because he has a weird last name and an Indian. Okay? Let's drop that bullshit. It has to be a female, lesbian, left-handed, amalgamous half-fish mermaid. I mean, they come up with these stupid things because that's what we have. It had to be a female and it had to be a leftist, and this is what we have. We have the worst vice president that I'm aware of. Right. In a long time with Gigglebox.
And but it isn't. But Biden is worse than I thought he was going to be.
Oh, he is.
It's so surprising because he was apparently a likable guy.
But guys, he's not running anything.
But not only that, Biden. But
he's not.
The one thing I will tell you that I was duped. I said a long time when he got elected, I said, all right, the good news about Biden is, he's been around a long time. He knows how to play the game. He can bring people together. But no, I didn't realize how corrupt that guy is.
Well, and he was co-opted in his senior moments here.
This guy is corrupt.
Well, he's with his dementia makes him.
I know we blew past time here.
Extremely.
We got some good things to talk about on the next program.
This isn't the longest. Maybe it's close.
It's pretty close though. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us for this episode of Get It Right Texoma. I'm Mike Hendren. This is Terry McAdams. That's Trey Serralo. We are the trio. We thank you for being with us. It's brought to you by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles, EddieHillsFunCycles.com, MacTech Solutions, MacTech-Solutions.com, and Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, LPSweet.com. Until next time, take care. We will see you down